Welcome back, MTN Giants podcast. I believe this is my first Giants video since the season concluded in that loss versus the Eagles against the backups. So since then, we have our Super Bowl matchup. Of course, I'm not happy about it. I made a video about it. It's the Super Bowl nobody wanted. I feel like of all the teams that made the playoffs, this was the worst possible outcome. Of course, as Giants fans, we don't like the Eagles, and the Chiefs have been just a team that I've grown to really dislike over the past few months. I mean, I feel like coming into the year, I wasn't too anti-Chiefs, but just seeing the way they win the games and whether it's missed field goals or blocked field goals or refs making very questionable calls, I've grown to really dislike that team. And obviously, I don't want to see Saquon hoisting the Lombardi. That would kind of feel shitty. And then I just also don't want to see success for the Chiefs because they also annoy me. So I don't know who I want to win. I know I said on Twitter I want Philly to win. I'd rather just both teams lose. I don't even want to watch. I know I will, but it's just one of those Super Bowls where I just wish it was any other possible matchup. And I also wanted to say that I'm working on a Giants video dating back to, honestly, since Tom Coughlin was fired, as to how this organization became so incompetent. It's going to be a very long video. I would say it's probably going to be like 30 minutes. It's going to take a lot of editing, so I'm not sure when that will be done, but when it's done, I hope you guys enjoy it. It should be good, so we'll get to that hopefully in a couple weeks. I'm definitely working on that now. Anyway, today's video, I wanted to talk about possible quarterback options for the Giants in 2025, of course. With Tommy DeVito being the only quarterback under contract, the Giants will obviously have to get some more reinforcements in that quarterback room because Tommy DeVito's not enough. So, of course, Drew Lock, he'll be a free agent. They released Daniel Jones. Thank God that's over. I have a lot of names here. I think I have 17 guys listed and then a few others that I have as honorable mentions. So I think we'll start with the honorable mentions first, and I kind of rank them. I think I'll go backwards from 17 to 1. That'd kind of be more suspenseful. But yeah, so I don't want to say these are definitive ranks because I'm still flip-flopping on Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders almost every day, it feels like. So I don't want to say they're definitive. I did it in terms of contract, how much these guys would cost to trade for, where you would have to draft them. So I took those things into account. For instance, I'm trying to see there will definitely be a guy higher than another guy, which doesn't make sense. But when you take into account how much it would take to trade for that guy, then it makes more sense, is what I'm trying to say. So the guys who missed the cutoff, I have Trey Lance at 24 years old. Of course, the former third overall pick. He really only had one game, and I would say 1.5 games being the 49ers starter. Of course, he broke his ankle in the week 2 matchup, and then Brock Purdy, or it was Garoppolo, then Purdy came in, and of course, he's been the quarterback one ever since. Trey Lance has had some rough moments with Dallas since being there. He had that 4 interception or maybe 5 interception preseason game. He did not look great in that regular season finale this year. So I'm not sure Trey Lance will ever be something good. Maybe take a chance as a backup. I do like guys with upside, especially at 24 years old. But I think the expectations of Trey Lance being a quarterback one for a franchise, it's probably not going to happen. Next is Drew Lock. We know Drew Lock, 28 years old. And he was okay at times. He had that phenomenal game versus the Colts. But outside of that, it was a lot of Drew Lock being Drew Lock, and the turnovers, the bad decisions, inaccuracy, but he does make the splash plays here and there. He has his games where he looks great, so we know what Drew Lock is like. Gardner Minshew, 28 years old. He missed a lot of last season. I forget what the injury was, but you would have to trade for him, so I don't really think that would be the best route, but with the Raiders probably going with O'Connell or drafting a quarterback, you would have to think there's a chance that Gardner Minshew's not in their future and possibly near future, so that's a possible trade candidate for a 7th round pick. Marcus Mariota, free agent, 31 years old. He's been with a couple division rivals, the Eagles and Commanders, the past couple years, but I don't think Mariota's a guy you want starting games for you in 2025. Kirk Cousins, I know he didn't make my top 17. I have no interest in Kirk Cousins at all. You would have to trade for him or hope that the Falcons cut him and you can get him for free. Not for free, but for just for a free agent cost. So he's 36. He'll now be 2 years removed, or 1.5 years removed from a torn Achilles. Maybe he gets some of his strength back, but he just did not look right this year. A lot of late career Eli Manning vibes from Kirk Cousins. I mean, he had a couple of great games. He had that Thursday nighter versus the Buccaneers where he had 5 touchdowns. But overall, Kirk Cousins could not move. His deep ball did not look the same. I just don't think making him your quarterback one at this point is a good idea. Derek Carr, I've said before, if Derek Carr is the Giants quarterback one, I think I'll just stop watching. I just can't deal with that. He's 33. You would have to trade for him or maybe hope he's cut. But I do think if the Saints cut him, it would cost them way too much money, so I think you might have to trade for him. But Derek Carr is I can't stand that guy. He's the worst. So if Derek Carr is the Giants quarterback, I mean, I might take the year off. We'll see. Carson Wentz, 32 years old. I know that's been rumored out there for the Giants. I've heard Carson Wentz is not the best locker room guy. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know what exactly it is. I don't know if he's tough to get along with or he's kind of shy and keeps to himself, but I don't really think Carson Wentz is worth being a team's quarterback one in 2025. All right, now to the real rankings. So I'm going from worst to first. There's definitely a word for this. After further review, it's ascending order. There you go. So I knew there was a word for it. So anyway, number 17, Kenny Pickett, 26 years old. You would have to trade for him. Pickett is owed, his cap hit is $2.6 million. Then he has a club option for 2026, which I believe is the fifth-year option. So if you were to trade for Pickett, you would have to make the fifth-year option decision this offseason. I am 99.9% sure that will be declined by whoever has Kenny Pickett, whether it's Philly or whoever. But a pretty small cap hit for next year. I don't think Pickett's the worst quarterback, but I'm also not too impressed. The arm strength is not too great. And playing at MetLife with bad arm strength is probably not ideal, and I just don't think Kenny Pickett would really do much for this team. I guess he is, former first-round pick, seems like a decent dude, so maybe it's worth something. Maybe he would be better in Brian Daboll's offense, but overall, it's not too intriguing, and I would hope the Giants don't go down that route. Number 16, I have Will Levis at 25 years old. You would have to trade for him. His cap hit the next 2 years is $2.6 million and $3 million in 2026. So pretty affordable contract, but of course, Will Levis is a guy who I would say, I don't know, can I say poor man's Josh Allen, or is that too much credit? I don't know what to call him, but he has a lot of physical tools. He has a great arm. He can run. But in terms of being accurate and turning the ball over, making bad decisions, he does all of that. So he's kind of like Drew Lock, but just he's Drew Lock, but has better physical tools, I guess you can say. So I don't know if Will Levis is worth it, but he is 25. He doesn't have that much experience. He's played in 21 games, so okay, maybe there's something there. He might be a former teammate of Wan'Dale Robinson. I forget, but he might be. But overall, it might not cost you much. But if the Titans don't go quarterback in this draft, which according to Mike Borgonzi, they're not going to pass on it, or Mike Borgonzi's the new GM there. He said they're not going to pass on a generational talent, which are they talking about Abdul Carter? Are they talking about Travis Hunter? I don't know what they're talking about there. So there's a chance they don't go quarterback, and maybe Will Levis is just there for his third year in Tennessee. So it's not a guarantee they will trade him, but if they did, there's always a chance you can maybe get him for a 6th or 7th round pick. So there is that. 15 is Jameis Winston. If you follow me on Twitter, you've known I've wanted Jameis to be on the Giants for 3 years now, maybe 4. But yeah, Jameis had his ups and downs with Cleveland. Story of his career, 13 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He will give you some very high-end games and give you some of the worst games you've seen. So it's going to be inconsistent, but he does seem like a very likable guy, good locker room guy. So if Jameis Winston came in as your bridge quarterback, if the Giants were to hypothetically draft a rookie quarterback, he can be your bridge quarterback and start for 6-7 games, kind of like Brissett with the Patriots last year. So Jameis Winston can be that guy. Number 14, this guy was talked about a lot by the Giants fan base just a few years ago, but Malik Willis. I have Malik Willis at 14, 25 years old. You would have to trade for him. Now, I don't know why Green Bay would trade him, so I have to come out and say that, But if they were to do it, I think Malik Willis might be worth, I don't know, a 6th-round investment. Like, why not? He's owed $1.4 million on the cap next year. Jordan Love's had some injury concerns. He had the groin injury, had the knee injury this past year. So I don't think the Packers would trade Malik Willis, because when he stepped in for Jordan Love, he actually did a pretty good job, especially like the first time around. So I don't think they'll trade him, but there's always that small chance. So I would say Malik Willis might be an interesting guy to invest in. Number 13, a free agent, Zach Wilson. Of course, plenty of experience at MetLife Stadium. I don't know if he'd like to play in New York ever again, but Zach Wilson, of course, does have a crazy amount of arm talent, can make plays throwing on the run. So, like, he does have talent, obviously. He went 2nd overall for a reason. But when he got to the NFL and his offensive line wasn't perfect, I mean, of course, bad things happened. Of course, there was some, I don't want to say off-field issues, but I feel like that stuff with his mom was kind of weird, or not his mom, like the whole cougar thing with him, and I think he may have slept with his college teammate's girlfriend or something. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff with Zach Wilson, but he is talented. So if he's matured and he was with Sean Payton for the past year, maybe it's worth taking a shot. I wouldn't hate it as a quarterback too, but he is a free agent, so we'll see. Number 12, Hendon Hooker. This would have to be a trade. He's 26, almost 27 now. And yeah, I mean, I feel a little concerned about this because the Lions brought Teddy Bridgewater out of retirement to be the quarterback too. So like, what does that say about Hendon Hooker? Like, if Hendon Hooker looked that good in practice, would they really try and get Teddy Bridgewater out of retirement? So I kind of leave that thinking like, all right, maybe Hendon Hooker sucks. But we saw Hendon Hooker play in the preseason. I think he played the Giants last year. He had that one run where he ran over that guy. It might have been 2 years ago, but whatever. But Hooker's looked pretty good, I would say, in the preseason film. Like, I tried to watch some of it, and he's looked okay. So like, it might not be the worst idea. Of course, he had that torn ACL coming out of college. He was an older prospect to begin with, so his draft value really plummeted. But yeah, I mean, it might be worth taking a chance. I think there is talent there. I don't know if he'll ever be a team's actual franchise quarterback, but you could do worse. If it only takes a day 3 pick and it's a 6th or 7th round pick, it might be worth taking a shot there. Number 11, I might have to move this guy up because I like his film for the most part from what I've seen. But Jackson Dart, of course, Jackson Dart has gotten a lot of attention, I would say, specifically the past 2 weeks. There is that Manning connection because he plays at Ole Miss, and so did Eli. But when I watched Jackson Dart, and this was probably like a month ago when I first started watching him, like, the ball placement's very good. All right, he's not a plus athlete. He's kind of like a Drew Lock type athlete. I think of him as like a Drew Lock, but more accurate. He's got the same body type, same athleticism, but he's more accurate. Has less of an arm than Locke, but as I've evolved as a football fan, I've come to realize that accuracy is more important than arm strength. I used to be such a big arm strength guy, but accuracy is more important. Like, you see these guys like Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy, of course, and Jared Goff, who may not have the most arm strength. They thrive because they are accurate for the most part. So I look at Jackson Dart, and like, maybe a few years ago, I would not have really taken him seriously. But I think Jackson Dart has a chance. I think someone said yesterday, it might have been Orlovsky or some other guy who covers the draft, that Jackson Dart will be a first-round pick. And yeah, maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe one of these like teams picking, it might be like that Lamar Jackson situation where like a team trades back up into the first round to get the 5th-year option on him. But yeah, Jackson Dart, like, I could see the Giants liking him. He's definitely their type, if you know what I mean. So I could see that working. I don't think I would take him at 3, but I would take him in the 2nd round. I definitely would. I would take that chance. So we'll see what happens there, but Jackson Dart is interesting. Number 10, Russell Wilson, 36 years old. I do think Russ ultimately returns back to Pittsburgh, unless like Pittsburgh, I don't know, maybe they get like Aaron Rodgers or something we're not expecting, but seems like Russell Wilson might be their best chance. So Russ had a pretty good year last year. He started off hot and definitely cooled down towards the end, but I would say he's shown the past 2 years now that he can still play in this league. Of course, 2022 was a rough year for Russ. They had that, who the hell was that Broncos coach for 1 year who got fired? I forget his name now, but they had that very rough year, his first year in Denver. Sean Payton comes in 2023. He looks much better, Russell Wilson. And, of course, last year for the Steelers, he had that calf strain, missed a few games, but came in, had 16 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He went 6-5, which I think Justin Fields actually had a better record, but still, Russell Wilson had his moments of looking good, so I'd put him at number 10. Number 9 is Sam Darnold, and he's 27 years old. It's a tricky one. He was in such a great situation. The Kevin O'Connell quarterbacks always seem to play well. The question is how much of it was Sam Darnold and how much of it was just the environment. And I think a lot of it was the environment. I think Sam Darnold's talented. He went third overall, right? He was compared to Ben Roethlisberger coming out of college. But I still think we've seen enough from Darnold in the NFL that if he went to another team, I think or if he went to a bad team, if he went to a good team, it'd work out. Like if he went to Pittsburgh, for instance, I could see that working. They should do that, by the way. I don't know if they can afford it, but that would make a lot of sense. Anyway, especially with the Big Ben comp. I'm really cooking here. But yeah, I feel like if Darnold went to a team like the New York Giants, it would just not go well. I just could see it, because Darnold, even this past year, in the great year he had with the Vikings, would still make about 3, 4, 5 bad decisions per game where you're like, that's the Sam Darnold we know. But he got away with it because, like, you know, the good outweighed the bad. But yeah, the bad Sam Darnold plays are still there. But when you don't have Addison and Jefferson and Hawkinson, quote unquote, bailing you out, how's it going to look? I'm just not confident. So yeah, maybe Sam Darnold should be much higher if you were ranking this list, watching the video. But I have him at 9 because it just feels like a Daniel Jones 2.0. Like you would give him a 4-year deal, big money number, and he would just turn into a pumpkin. Like I just don't want that. So if it is Darnold, like okay, I could live with it, but I don't know. I just have a bad vibe about it. I don't like this ranking. I should have probably edited this, and if I can go back, I'd probably put him lower. But I have Jalen Milroe at number 8. Of course, the Shrine Bowl did not really up his stock. It probably lowered his stock. But Milroe is such an elite runner that I think the floor is actually kind of high. Like, can he be a Jalen Hurts one day? I mean, maybe. I don't see why not. You would have to go to the right team. But if Milroe went to the wrong team, like the Giants, and played right away, it would probably go horribly. Like, I think Jalen Milroe has to sit for at least one full season, if not like 3/4 of his first season, like Michael Penix. I mean, there's a lot for him to learn. He has to read a defense better. He can't keep holding onto the ball too long. So there's issues, and they have to iron that out. But I think somewhere there's a talented kid in there. I mean, maybe Milroe ends up being great. I could see it. But I think taking that chance third overall would be kind of crazy. I've seen people mock him to the Giants at 3. I mean, not many, but I've seen it like 2 or 3 times. But that would be crazy. I just can't really get on board with that. But if Milroe happened to fall to day 2, I would kind of be more in favor of taking Milroe over Jackson Dart, because I feel like with Milroe there is more upside. Like he actually might be a great quarterback one day. Like he at least has the body type to do it. So not to take anything away from Jackson Dart, but he is limited physically, and Jalen Milroe is not. So I don't know. I could see it working out in round 2, but if Jalen Milroe goes in the first round, I would say forget about it, because I don't want that at number 3 overall. Number 7, and this is controversial, I get it. I've always been a fan of the guy, and he's 41 years old. But Aaron Rodgers. I have Aaron Rodgers. It would have to be a trade, or he gets cut. Either could happen. He might retire, so it might be a moot point. But if Rodgers comes back, I think it could work out in the right situation. I do. And I don't know if the Giants are the right situation, obviously. But Rodgers still has a great arm. You watch some of these other late career quarterbacks, whether it be like a Matt Ryan in Indianapolis or Eli Manning in 2018-19, or I mentioned Kirk Cousins, you can tell those guys' arms were not the same. I watched Aaron Rodgers this year, and it's like the guy's arm is still fantastic. He's not moving like he used to. That's the downside. He took a lot of sacks this year. But when you watch him just throwing the ball, he still makes tremendous throws. He made that one throw on a seam to Devontae Adams over like 2 Jaguars players. It was like the most perfectly placed ball. Of course, that play I remember knocked me out of a fantasy playoff. But it was such a great throw. Like Aaron Rodgers still makes these amazing throws. He has a ton of zip on the ball still. I know there's some off the field stuff, the Pat McAfee show and whatever conspiracies he's into. Like I've seen it play out with Kyrie Irving with my Nets. It did not go well, but maybe it could be worse. I still believe Rodgers, there's something there if he decides to play. The arm is not shot. If the arm was shot, I would say, yeah, no chance. But if his arm is still alive, I still have faith that Rodgers can at least make you a decent team. So, I mean, maybe 7's too high, but I think Rodgers still has something left if he were to come back. Number 6, and this might be the most ideal if the price is low, but I think a lot of teams might be bidding for this guy. Justin Fields, 25 years old. He'll be a free agent this year. He had, honestly, people forget, 2022, The guy had 1,143 rushing yards. That was like one of the best quarterback rushing seasons of all time. And he gives you so much with his legs, Justin Fields. I don't know how, like, he can definitely do what Daniel Jones did in 2022. Now, obviously, we learned our lesson. Playing like that, there's only so far you can go playing like the 2022 Giants. When you meet an elite team like Philly, they'll beat the crap out of you. But if you had Justin Fields, and let's say he does not progress reading a defense and holding the ball too long, I think at most he can give you the 2022 Giants, right? You can get yourself, 9 or 10 wins and win a playoff game. That'd be a big improvement for what the Giants are doing right now. I just don't think that's the best long-term solution. I don't see Justin Fields coming here and being the answer for the next 10 years, but still, if he can hold it down for a year, like if the Giants realize like these quarterbacks in this class suck and we don't want them, Justin Fields for a year is not the worst thing. It really is not. So I would not mind it. I've always been a Justin Fields fan. I think this is me exposing myself for a bad take, but I think in the 2023 offseason, I did a quarterback rankings video from 32 to 1. I had Justin Fields at 10. And of course, he was coming off that season with like the 1,100 rushing yards, and I feel like a fool for it now. But I was a big Justin Fields guy. And of course, I've come to realize, like, yeah, there's too much of him not reading a defense there, and the accuracy is inconsistent. But there's something about Justin Fields I like. He's a great athlete. He can get a lot done with his legs. And there are passes he makes where it's like, wow, like he actually made one versus the Giants in 2022 to Darnell Mooney, and it was like a 60-yard air yard throw, and Mooney had to lay out to get it. But like, yeah, it's like still Justin Fields makes some very impressive plays, and if you give Fields a good running game, which he is part of the running game, and you give him a good defense like he was with the Steelers, like he's gonna give you results. I mean, I think he went like 5-2 as the Steelers starting quarterback. Russell Wilson went 6-5, so do the math, right? Justin Fields was much better with his win percentage. But if it's like 2 years, I'm trying to be like somewhat realistic here. If it's like because I know there's no like middle ground for quarterback contracts, as they say, which there should be. But if it was like a 2-year, $30 million deal, or maybe more, 2-year, $40 million deal, and you can get out after 1 year, I would not mind that for Justin Fields. Now, if he wants like 3 years, $100 million, and that might be a bit too much. So I don't know. It really depends what the number is, but if he's affordable, then I think that might be the right move. Number 5, I think this one's not really going to matter because I don't think he'll be traded, but I have Anthony Richardson of the Colts. 22 years old. He's only started 16 games in the NFL. He had a very rough 2024, getting benched, getting injured, but the highs with him look so good. I mean, you watch some Anthony Richardson plays are plays that only he can make, and maybe like Josh Allen and Mahomes. Like, he just has so much talent. If he were to put it together, he could be one of the greats. The injury history is concerning. The accuracy is very concerning. But if those things were to magically be fixed, which I saw he's working with a new, who was it? I forget who it was now. But he's working this offseason with some highly regarded quarterback coach to work on his mechanics. And I don't think his mechanics are that awful. I don't know what it is with him. He just kind of like airmails a lot of throws. But if they can somehow fix his accuracy, I mean, Richardson's going to be great. He has to be healthy, of course. And there's two big like elephants in the room here with accuracy and injuries. But he's on a rookie contract still, $9 million for this year, $10 million for 2026. If you were to somehow get him for a 3rd or a 4th round pick, I think it's worth it. I really do. I mean, the Giants took a shot on Darren Waller for a 3rd round pick. You wouldn't take a shot on 22-year-old Anthony Richardson? You know, it's like the guy does not have much experience. If he keeps playing and fixes the accuracy, the sky is the limit. It really is. So, it's a better chance he's a bust, but there is still that, I would say, 30% chance he ends up being great, and I would take that shot. So I have him at 5th. Number 4, I don't love this one, but he is good. Kyler Murray. If they trade him, he's 27 years old. The cap hits are pretty large, $45 million next year, $55 million in 26, down to $43 million in 2027. There's an opt-out or a potential out for the team that has him after 2027. His club option for 2028 is $46 million on the cap. So it's a big cap hit. I don't love Kyler playing in like these cold environments and MetLife in December, but I think Kyler Murray is a big upgrade over what the Giants have, and if they can get him for Not much. I'm not giving up like 2 first-round picks for him, but if you can trade I don't know, what would be a fair trade for Kyler Murray? It really depends how much the Cardinals are out on him. Like if they really aren't believing in him, he might go for like a 2 and a 5. But if they might set a price where it's like first-round pick, like you have to give us a first, and if that's the case, I wouldn't do it. Obviously, I would not give the 3rd overall pick this year, but if it was like a 2026 first-round pick for Kyler, I'd consider it. I'd probably land on no, but I would still consider it. But Kyler, when he's healthy, is very good. I mean, he had a kind of a rough year this year. He's now, I think, 2 years off the ACL. So I could see why people wouldn't want to do it. And there's the Call of Duty memes and stuff, but that stuff doesn't really bother me. I feel like he's not like an off-field issue. It's, he could be doing much worse things than playing Call of Duty. So a lot of this one depends on price, but if you can get him for a 2nd and a 5th, I would probably do that. If they want a 1st, I'd probably not do that because, the Giants might be picking high. Number 3, and as I said, these can flip, Shedeur Sanders, number 3. I mean, Shedeur Sanders and the Giants have been like flirting with each other for the past 2 months, whether it was Shedeur wearing the Giants cleats and always mentioning the Giants in his interviews. Like Shedeur Sanders feels like he'll be a Giant. We'll see how it plays out, but it just feels like that right now. So with Shedeur, I've gone over him before, but I do love the footwork. I do love the accuracy. I don't love that he holds onto the ball too long. I mean, he seems like a cerebral player, like he knows how to read a defense and he understands the mental aspect of the game. But when you hold on to the ball too long, and Shedeur, for being Deion's son, his athleticism's not tremendous. He's like a decent athlete for a quarterback. He can still run. He'll get you maybe like 200, 300 rushing yards in a season, maybe more. But he's not Cam Ward athletically. It seems like if he could pick, he would like to be a Giant. I do like that. I do want a guy who wants to be here, of course, so that helps. I think Shedeur has to be in a good environment. I don't think Shedeur is the type of guy to be on a bad roster and to overcome a lot of deficiencies on a bad roster. I could see Cam Ward doing that to a degree, but if Shedeur Sanders has a bad offensive line, like you're kind of cooked. I mean, he does maneuver the pocket pretty well at times, but as I also said before, he does hold on to the ball too long. So it's like there's good and bad about him. But if he's on a bad team next year, which I don't think the Giants' offensive line was that bad when Andrew Thomas played, so maybe it's not that big of an issue if Thomas actually plays a full year. So I don't know. I think if the Giants were to draft Shedeur, you sit him for maybe like the first quarter, maybe half of the season. And like I think ideally it would be like you sign Justin Fields on a 2-year deal, get out after 1 year, and you sit Shedeur for like half the year. You go 3-4 with Justin Fields, 4-3 maybe if things break right, and then you put in Shedeur, kind of like Kurt Warner to Eli Manning, right? I think when Kurt Warner came in, or when Eli came in for Kurt Warner, I feel like Kurt Warner had a good record. They were 5-4. So as I said, like they might be 4-3, 5-4, but ultimately everybody knows they're gonna eventually go to the 3rd overall pick, which would be Sanders, and that's gonna happen. So if the Giants took Sanders, I'd be very excited about it. I think overall I do like him as a prospect. I don't love him, but I do like him, so that'd be okay with me. Number 2. This would be a trade. I don't know if this team will trade him, especially it depends how the whole Sam Darnold thing goes, but J.J. McCarthy. I liked J.J. a lot last year. I was kind of hoping the Giants would take him. I think they made the right choice with Malik Neighbors. I guess it depends what McCarthy does. He's not even 22 yet, but still, if McCarthy actually is the Vikings quarterback, he might put up great numbers because that environment is tremendous. But McCarthy, he'd probably cost at least a 2nd-round pick. At least. That's like the floor. So you're going to have to trade something to get him, but he is cheaper technically than taking Shedeur or Cam Ward 3rd overall, so you have that going for you. But on the downside, you are losing a year of his rookie contract, so there is that. He did have 2, I think, meniscus surgeries, so that's a little concerning. Why didn't the first one go well? But hopefully he's fine. I still think the Vikings view him as their future. I don't think they're dumb enough to just put their entire franchise hands into Sam Darnold. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I still think McCarthy will be their quarterback in Minnesota, whether it's this year or in 2026. But yeah, I think they'll keep him, but if the Giants can trade for him for a kind of like the Kyler Murray package, a 2 and a 5, 2 and a 6, I mean, I'd do it. I really don't see why not. But anyway, number 1, Cam Ward right now for Miami. I mean, I always flip-flop, as I say. You might ask me next week and I might have Shedeur over him, but for right now, I have Cam Ward. I think the way Cam Ward plays the quarterback position it's like something we have not seen before. The guy has the most nonchalant looking passes you'll ever see. Like I saw a pass the other day where he was just standing flat-footed in the pocket and dumped it off to his running back, and I think he almost got a first down, but the way he plays the game is weird. He has it's not an odd throwing motion, but he just whips the ball. Like he has like this kind of elastic arm. Like it does look good. He has a ton of velocity. He can throw the ball deep, a lot of zip on it, but it's just, I feel like the mechanics and his footwork is awkward. Underneath the hood, there's a great athlete there, a good head on his shoulders. Like I feel like Cam Ward might be a franchise quarterback for some team one day. I'd still be a bit surprised if he fell to 3. I know there's people that are very set on the Titans and Browns not taking a quarterback. I'm still not there yet. I still think Cam Ward will be gone by the time the Giants pick. But if he's there, as I stand right now, I'd rather have Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is worth the investment. I think the ceiling's higher than Shedeur. Shedeur has a safer floor because I think Shedeur at least he's more accurate. He has the better footwork. He can read a defense better. So like he does have that going for him. But Cam Ward, you can mold Cam Ward into a top 10 quarterback in the league. I really have no doubts about that. So it just depends how the draft falls. If the Titans and Browns stay where they're at and they just go with Hunter and Carter, then yeah, the Giants have their pick at which quarterback they want, which is great. That's what I wanted the whole time, and that's why I wanted the Giants to lose out, especially when they won that Colts game. It pissed me off. But if they get their pick of Ward or Sanders, then I'll be happy, right? I got what I wanted, so we'll see what happens, but I think I would still be surprised if both Ward and Sanders are available at 3. That's just how I view it. Maybe I'm being pessimistic, but that's still how I look at it. So anyway, that'll do it for this video. I mean, I don't know if you agree with my rankings. I kind of wanted to change some as I went through it, now that I'm talking it out, but yeah, I think for the most part, this is where I fall. Maybe you can switch a couple guys out. But yeah, let me know in the comments if I even forgot anybody. Maybe there's a player out there I forgot about. Maybe there's a guy who could be traded, which I did not bring up. Like I know Matthew Stafford's in there. I don't want Matthew Stafford for the Giants. I just don't see what it does. I love Matthew Stafford too. I've always been a big Stafford fan, but what is he, 37 now? He's 36, but he'll be 37 in 6 days. So happy early birthday to Matthew Stafford. But yeah, I don't want 37-year-old Stafford as the Giants quarterback. I just don't see how it makes sense. I'd rather go younger. But if Stafford was a Giant, I'd be excited. I do love the guy. I love the way he plays the quarterback position. I think he's one of the more talented quarterbacks in football, and he's been that for the last decade plus. Part of me would love it, and part of me would be like, that just does not fit the timeline. So I'd have a tough time looking at that one and having a logical thought process about it. But anyway, that'll do it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Of course, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time.